Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome for another episode of the Real Estate Marketing Dude podcast. We are joined today. We are literally going coast to coast today. We're down here in sunny San Diego. And I have to admit, folks, I didn't even take a shower yet today because I was so excited to do this podcast. So literally, my guest will tell you that. He's looking at me. I'm just looking like total crap. But that's okay because this is a listening-only show. And I do look like I have a voice made for radio, or I forget the saying. Anyways, welcome to another show, and we are joined here by a gentleman that is not only has a very good and interesting story that I think is going to be motivational for you to hear, but also as we walk through his journey in the real estate business, he's going to talk about what made him successful, how he's literally running a team of, I think it's like 14 agents right now, and he's running a business. He's not like just, he's not just like selling houses. I mean, he's looking at this as he's running a business. And that is the whole point of our show. And this is why we bring guests like this on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our guest from the East Coast, coming out of Virginia Beach, Mr. Barry Jenkins. What's up, Barry? Glad to have you on the show. Please go ahead and give a quick introduction. Let our listeners know who you are and what you do and where you're at again, and we'll get started.
Sure. Super honored to be on the show. Love everything that you're doing. Truth be told, started in the business as a quasi real estate investor when I was 18. I'm 37 now. Lost everything during the market crash and kind of did a reboot, in 2010. So it's been, 7 years of just the climb, the journey, and super thankful for going broke, but hopefully never have that happen again.
Sure. You know what they say is it's interesting. Unless you go broke, you don't learn. And until you feel pain, you'll never force yourself to learn. And you sort of done it firsthand. So let's start off with your story. And I think this is going to be an interesting podcast. As you folks know, we don't really plan these out. Barry's like, Mike, what are you going to ask me? And I'm like, you know what, Barry, we're just going to leave it to suspense. We're going to keep it a surprise. So what we're going to do is go right on through that. And Barry, I want you to tell our guests, we spoke briefly before we went live here, but I want you to tell our guests where you were at 5 years ago.
Sure. So 5 years ago, my brokerage had a contract with several of the REOs. They still do. I just don't sell them anymore. And so that's what allowed me the opportunity to start to hit it really hard, was to sell these REOs. And, my family owns our office, and they were really careful in the early days to not show nepotism, like to give me the listings. And so I got the worst. My listings, I needed police escort because they were known drug dealing, crack infested markets to where I had to have protection. I had to, I carried a gun to some of these, and I'm not a violent person. I just wanted everybody to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so
I just wanted to sell a house, man.
It was. And I did really well with those, though. Like I had lost everything. I had racked up $60,000. It was actually 55, but of credit card debt just buying groceries when the market tanked. And so this was my next shot. So I took it really seriously, and I tried really hard. And I helped a lot of people buy a lot of homes. I stayed relevant to them. They referred me their friends and family. And I just got really, really busy. It was like 4 years ago that I sold 120 homes by myself. And I looked at my wife and I said, I'm miserable. I'm freaking miserable. This is not what I signed up for. And so I didn't start a team.
Quick question. Let's rewind that really quick. This is interesting. So first you got into REO sort of by default or by force almost. You lost your regular business. Now before the market crash, and in Virginia, I'm not sure where it hit by you when I was in Chicago then. So for me, it was about the end of 2007, 2008, definitely into 2009. Is that about the same time? And what were you doing before the market crash so that our listeners get an idea off of, how that went and how you were sort of forced into the REOs? Because I want to talk a little bit on the REOs. I know exactly about the crack house experience you're talking about.
Well, so I started real estate when you stick a sign in the yard and 10 people would write offers that day. And I remember, at that time we used paper and we would put all the offers on the kitchen table and go through it. And so that's all I knew. I was at a 100% company. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they didn't do any training. I didn't know how to be a salesperson. I knew how to answer the phone. So when the phone stopped ringing, I lost everything, and I didn't have any sales training. So when the market crashed, I liked being able to pay my mortgage and buying groceries. So I kept my license, but I got a job selling steel buildings over the phone. So I would sell these $60,000 buildings, create the sizzle, tell them why they wanted to buy the garage, sell it, close it. And that's what taught me how to be a salesperson.
I was just going to say, you had to learn how to be a salesperson, not from the classes you took at National Association of Realtors, not from your state licensing activity, not from any of the dues that you're paying each and every year, but from real life working experience in a different industry. That's what I want to get out. Okay, awesome.
Yep. And so then, of course, I've got all this debt. Real estate market sucks. My office procures this REO arrangement, and I see it as my next opportunity, because what I learned selling steel buildings, I knew that if I could get back into real estate, that I would be, it would be amazing.
Yep.
It was.
And what was the sales price? You're dealing with the REOs. You mentioned the crack houses. Were you dealing with because we had the same thing. We were in Chicago. I remember I was working for my team partners before our short sale business took off, and we had an REO account. Yeah, and I found myself in the south side of Chicago, which you guys all hear about on the news, Inglewood, and all those neighborhoods, and, running into crack houses, literally like heroin sitting on the floor, just like bums just sitting around there for what? A $10,000 listing that at 2.5%, maybe 3%, that's divided by 4 people. That's what we were working at, and you had to be careful then. But I think I was like, dude, there was an opportunity there because that was the buzzword. So let's talk about how you leveraged that and what you learned into that, if that's what you ended up doing. It
is.
Okay,
yeah,
let's go.
It's exactly what I ended up doing. And so, the smaller end listings I had were about 10,000. I had people that were using, how you get those checks from your credit card company?
Yeah.
That's what we were using to buy these investment properties. So market that I was in. And so what I started to gravitate towards was I was looking for investors that wanted to flip. And the reason for that is I knew that if I had a shiny product on the other end that was done up real nice, that I would get the clientele that I really wanted to work with. So I would market to investors as much as I could, and I would sell them. And I didn't care. I didn't care what I sold them the house for on the front end. I really didn't even care what I listed it for or the commission, because honestly, a $10,000 house for 2% commission split between 4 people, to use your example, I wasn't making much anyway. For me, this was all about the opportunity.
The relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would give them a break on the listing commission, but suddenly I was relevant to the community. And then I would sell it for a lot. I would get a buyer. The neighbor would hear about the deal that I just sold. I would sell their house. And that's how I started to build out that database, because nobody taught me for the first 7 years of my business to keep a database and to be relevant to that. It didn't click. I was 18, 20, so.
So these are all very, very very, very important. I want you guys to listen to what Barry's saying right here. And first, before you could get in business, you need a value proposition. All right. At that time, Barry's value proposition was the REO market. And you're right. If during our short sale days, I cannot tell you the amount of buyer leads that we could have leveraged. It was the biggest mistake I made in my career was being so successful that you stopped with the basics. You stopped being great at the basics. And if I would have just fast forward to what those basics would have done today, oh my God, it would have been lights out. And yeah, I shoot myself in the foot. Part of me doesn't really care because I'm no longer in Chicago. But at the same time, I saw the missed opportunity. But you're exactly right. Second thing he mentioned that is so important, folks. Are you working with investors? And if you're not, why not? Right. Especially for those that want to pick up listing leads, because the only offer you can give a listing or a seller to actually get traction, Barry, I want to hear your opinion on this, is I have someone that's going to buy your house.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, being relevant is what sales, that's the value prop. I'm relevant to you because I can perform X, Y, and Z. And being able to clarify that, that's something we do big now, is when we go into a listing presentation, we'll pull up, this is how many buyers I have in this zip code currently in my database that are actively looking for a home. Yep. Let's go. Like, I can find another buyer for you. And that's what worked for the investors then. It's what works for the seller today.
Well, look at $1 Million Listing. I mean, look
Right.
at Josh Altman and Josh or Brad. Was it which one is it? Josh Altman, Josh Flagg. When they bring these $10 million, $20 million properties on, a lot of their marketing plan is strictly based upon their network. Right. It's not on the MLS, right? But those dudes did not build their network overnight. They built it over time. And there's a difference between playing the long game and the short game. But I love how you mentioned it because that's so important. Without a value proposition first, in this case it was your REOs, and in today's market, who knows what that value proposition is for some agents? There's a million different ones, but Barry focused on a niche, folks, and that's what I want to make sure that's so important. The jack of all trades is the master of none, and the one who does focus in on that niche. We're not saying anyone can sell a house, but for a marketing perspective, every agent has the same thing in common. They excel in a specific niche.
Right.
And they sell houses on the side.
Right.
It's almost like it's exactly how it works. So, all right, awesome. So let's keep going on here. So you saw the REOs,
Right.
and you did that for what, a couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, I hit it hard. I gave it everything that I had, and I did well. It was a lot of work, though, as you know. I mean, they grind you out, and so then I found an investor that attempted to basically, he bought, I don't know, 40, 50 a year. And I realized without extra money coming in, I was able to start to build out some support because I was miserable. I was working too much. And that's when the team started to happen. And I remember when I hired my assistant, I hired her for 10 hours a week to sit at REO properties waiting for the power and the water to get cut on for my investor.
Oh, yeah, that's the
So
worst.
nervous.
Yeah.
So nervous. And I had said, if I hire her and I get one sale a month off of those 40 hours, it's going to justify it. Well, of course, as you know, I was now at two places at once. I was selling every time she was doing what I didn't want to do. I was selling more transactions, and so I just kept building it and building it and building it.
So when you decided to hire your first assistant, you were making good money though at this time, right? But you weren't having a good life. There's a difference. Right. So a lot of people, it's almost like you want what you can't have, and then it's the opposite always. You're never satisfied. Nobody ever is. And it's like at one point you have to invest in your business. And when did you realize that you were running a business at that point, or has always been in your head? Because it just drives me nuts. And what I really want our audience to understand is that this isn't a job.
Right.
It can be. It sure can be. It can be a job, but if you're really running a business out of this, you got to pay attention to these little things because you took the time. Yeah. What did she cost you?
It was, $10 an hour, something like that. I mean, $100 a week.
But at the time, you're probably still like, oh my God, I got to spend $400 a month.
Right.
Right. $4,800 a year right now, and or more than that.
Well, and look, I mean, I've been, since day one of coming back into the business, I have a healthy motivation by fear. I never want to lose everything ever again. Yeah. You got to remember, though, that's a two-edged sword. I'm motivated by fear, so I work hard. But then when it comes time to, at that time, making a $400 a month investment into an assistant, that fear was then limiting me, right? Yep. So I had to basically say tick for tack. Invest the $400, get a sale. And I watched the pattern, and I slowly work my way up. And I jokingly say now, every time my assistant gets an assistant, I move up an income bracket. Because that means that everybody's so busy, and I keep moving to a higher level in my funnel of what I really want to do.
Awesome advice, and so relevant. All right, so you start your team. You got your first agent, your first assistant on board. What year are we in? And then let's talk about how we start building and leveraging into this 14 agent team, and then we'll get into some lead gen stuff.
Sure. So 3 years ago, 2 people came to me from my sphere. About 4 months before, I was actually ready to develop a team. I just had started to formulate it in my mind. One of my goals that year was to buy investment properties and also to build out a team. And they came to me, they sat down, and they said, I would like to learn from you. I looked at them and I said, I want you to understand, I'm thinking about doing a team and creating this, but I don't know what I'm doing. So as long as you're willing to sign up on an adventure where this is new territory for me, let's go.
Yeah.
And so then they were both part-time agents. They weren't full-time, but because of the lead gen and the conversion methods that I was using to create sales for them, both of them very quickly, one of them was a waitress. She was a waitress at a restaurant, and she that year bought a Land Rover.
Yeah.
And all of her friends said, "What did you do?" And so then she told them what they did, and then they all wanted to join, right? They're all like, "I want to do this too." They saw the reality of it.
Yep.
And so that's what snowballed, is I took two people that weren't prime candidates. One was a appraiser, one was a waitress, and then the floodgates came. And I don't recruit still to this day. I don't have to. People, they want to just work business that I hand them. And at that time, it was very manual, right? Like, I was helping them convert. I was doing it. And then over time, I integrated technology to help convert the leads, so that I'm still helping them. I'm doing air quotes for those that you are listening. But I'm not actually like doing it anymore. The systems are.
Yeah. And it's super important. What about, so listen, if you're an agent right now and you're thinking about potentially starting a team, you're right. You can't go into a team until you have a system to feed it.
Right.
And how important was that? Like these new agents, and waitresses, anyone in the customer service industry always does. Not anybody, but there's a reason why those people do well in real estate. And folks, we're not salespeople; we're customer service people. We have to sell to an extent, but ultimately, our customer service is what gets someone to sign on the line that is dotted, and it's nothing else other than that. And it's the most important aspect of our business, and it will be with more and more of these less expensive options popping up all over the place. Now, when you do this and you're thinking on system, you're not even knowing what you're doing real quick. You just know that you had a process that can be duplicated and that maybe you can leverage into another person that could replace you. Is that sort of your mindset at this point?
Yeah, so at that point, I tell them what I do currently as an individual works very well. I want you to copy me, and make it your own. And we didn't have a CRM. It was all messy, and the methods were very, messed up, and there wasn't like a script. I would bring them into my office, and we would just talk about. I said, who are you closing in the next 2 months? Let's focus. Let me help you focus on them, and that's how we did it. And it worked at the time. And I would say that I think most people that are trying to do this, they think too much. And I would recommend just working backwards, right? Like, if you have a successful real estate career, it's reproducible. Like, and reverse engineer that. Like, whatever you did to get to the point you are, leverage what you did in another person and watch them succeed. And it's incredibly fulfilling. It's actually more fulfilling than watching someone buy a house now for me.
And you actually, and here's another thing too, because I'll have to admit, I'm not a team owner. I had a team once. I've had 5 teams, I think, over my career. Honestly, I'm a leader, but I'm not patient enough to coach and teach my team members the way that what worked for me in the past. And I realized that the hard way. You, on the other hand, probably, you just say yourself, you're having this fulfillment. So why I'm sharing this with you folks is that, before I even left Chicago, I had 3 people on my team. That's the way I liked it. That's how I'm made. Right. And I realized that. And a lot before, my ego told me I needed to have 25 or 26. But I ended up having 22 headaches, and it was more stressful than it was ever worth.
Right.
And not for me, for them. I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do, and it wasn't a good situation. But you have to have this inside of you.
Right.
You have to want to serve others and make people, and know what your own strengths are as an individual. What do you think about that, Barry?
Yeah. So I just found out about that whole disc profile thing recently. So I took it. Yeah,
where you been, bro?
I'm talking about like a month ago.
That's
I'm
so
not
funny.
Talking about like.
Yeah, so it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's super insightful. And I realized I built my entire business around my disc profile, and I didn't know what a disc profile was.
Yep.
I'm a super high I and S, so I'm like super people oriented, super service. I want to please. I want to make people happy. I really shouldn't even be a business owner because
you're no D?
No, 0 D, 0
wow.
C. And but I'm very motivated by financial gain. and that's what tempers me, I think. And so I guess what I'm trying to tell you with that whole disc profile test was that I focused on my strengths. I love people. I love teaching. And then my weaknesses, I contracted out. I hired out. If I didn't like doing it, I found either a system or a person to do it for me. And I'm only good at like 3 things. But I'm surrounded by people that make me look amazing. And and so that's the thing I'll tell you is like you don't need to be me and I don't need to be you. I just need to figure out what I am and then fill in the pieces around me so that I can be successful, whatever that means. You know,
a true leader will find the strengths of their tribe or their team, whatever you want to call them, and bring those out to the forefront and help their team members self-discover those strengths.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I was horrible at, and you're really good at. You know, that's exactly. But you have to know your personality, and there's no right or wrong answer for everyone. Everyone is wired and built and created in one way. That's just the way God made us. But when you understand that, you can use it to your advantage in business. And it's not a real estate thing. This is anything.
Right. And the LinkedIn CEO, I read an article. He asked you where you want to be in 5 years when he's interviewing you. And everybody says the same thing. Oh, I want to be in this company just higher up. And he says, no, really, where do you want to be in 5 years? Whether you're at LinkedIn or not, I want to partner with you in that journey. And I've taken that. I copied it.
That's good.
Yeah. And they tell me the truth. They're like, okay, Barry, this is what I really want out of my life. My transaction coordinator told me from day one, she wants to be in sales. She does not want to be a transaction manager. And so I said, great, let's partner together. My assistant told me a year, like she told her parents and then me that she was pregnant because she was leaving. She was going to be a full-time mom and go into sales. And the trust had been built up. You know what I mean? Like we had built a culture to where she could be transparent with me. And that's important.
Especially in this business.
Yeah.
Because it's a roller coaster.
Yes.
So very, very cool. Now let's talk about some of the lead gen things because you're a coach for Club Wealth. You have 14 agents on your team. You guys how involved are you in the daily real estate business today? Let's start with this first and let's talk about how you're leveraging and growing and then leading ultimately your team.
So I come into the office around 9 o'clock and I'm here till 1. High level management and marketing. I want to pick up my son from school, so that's why I do it that way. And then I do a daily huddle 4 days a week. We use Uber Conference, and it calls everybody. I sprung the $10 a month Uber Conference line, so it calls everyone on the team. It's a 10-minute call to find out what they've been doing, what they're doing. I ask them the same question: what'd you do yesterday, real estate related? What are you doing today? And then at the end, I do like a 3-minute motivational little ditty talking about something to keep them grateful. And then every Wednesday we meet in the morning to do kind of more of a sales training. And then I always start my meetings with what's awesome, what sucks. And I go around the room. They tell me what's awesome in their business and what sucks. And so really now all I get to do is the stuff that I enjoy. It's the marketing, it's leadership. I have 2 team leaders that manage kind of the day-to-day. They have their own group. They get 5% of their agents' sales if their agents meet their quota. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching people because they're constantly being inundated with management, but it's very low effort on my part. I mean, 4 phone calls for 10 minutes and then an hour meeting in the morning, and the rest of the time I'm marketing, coming up with lead gen and automation, and writing scripts and that kind of stuff.
So you're not even in the business, you're working on the business, which
I'm not in production anymore.
Yeah,
I'm freaking loving it.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's why I moved out here for a reason, dude. So I hear that, brother. All right, so what's working? Like you're talking about lead gen. Do you look at your team's annual numbers? Like, what's the percentage of business coming from referrals? What's the percentage of business coming from lead sources, portal leads? Is it Facebook? Is it that? Let's get a little bit into that, and some people can see. And here's the one thing I will say. I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this. I'm curious your thoughts. But what's working today, folks, will be different next year, and it'll change the next year after that, and it'll change the next year after that. And that's why, half of this business is just staying in the know what the hell's going on.
Well, and that's why I'm also not afraid of sharing my secrets.
Sure.
People ask me all the time, why do I just lay it all out there? And it's because you have to be in touch with with the end consumer. How they're receiving information and everything. I look at my business 3 tiers. I've got lead gen, Facebook, Realtor, Zillow, like all the standard Google AdWords, all that. So that's 33%. Then another 33% is being relevant to the people that I sold homes to. So cards, gifts. We retarget them on Google and Facebook, so they always see an ad from us. So we hound them in a good way. We drop off gifts, all that stuff. Yeah. And then the last tier is I call it REO, but I actually don't sell foreclosed homes anymore. I have builders, so I've got flippers, and so those are people that are in the business that I kind of work with.
Niche clients.
Yes, yeah. So I have those 3 tiers, and they all crush. But it all starts. I would say that the lead of the funnel is buying leads. Yep. I did not want to go to the country club or the barbecues and be the most interesting guy in the room. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just didn't want to do it. So buying leads and marketing funnels everything, because once we do a good job by somebody, they love us. We have several hundred previous clients that love us. So
there you go. Now, on the lead gen, let's start with the lead gen. I'm going to go through a couple questions on each of these because they're all golden. So you have out of the lead gen sources, portal leads, Facebook, Zillows, the Trulios of the world. What would you say are going to be the top 3 that are working right now?
Yeah, so volume-wise, Ylopo is our largest lead source. And full disclosure, after a month of buying their leads and we were crushing it, I started to talk to them, and I'm actually a consultant for the company now. So, but I was relevant to them because they said, Barry, we'd love to hear how you're closing so many of those sales. And they derive those from Google and Facebook lead ads. Yep. So that's working really well. Zillow, my ROI is really high. We spend about, maybe $3,000 a month on Zillow. Not, it's $3,000 is a lot of money, but for Zillow, it's not. Right. And then Realtor, I've had Realtor since I started REO. So I've had them for about 7 years. I've got like 10 different zip codes. And then previous clients and referrals are also a big piece of that. But the lead gen side, that's the main focus for us. It would be those 3.
And this is probably what a lot of the team members rely on, especially the newer ones that haven't yet built their sphere of influence and haven't yet branded their network or their audience to actually know what the hell they do for a living if they're in real estate. So you always, there's always a way to keep prospecting, and you just got to figure out what works for you. And we've heard a lot about Ylopo. Tristan was on our show, one of your buddies. A couple other club also been on the show, and they've been saying the exact same thing. So if you're looking for a cold lead gen source, Ylopo does seem to be leading the pack in that. Zillow, Realtor.com, same thing. It's a numbers game. Right? Now, so it's just, but what is the key to these? What is the key to making any of these work? Right? Yeah. Because to me, they're all purchased internet lead sources. Some are better than others, but I want to hear what is the key? Because there are people that can sign up for Zillow or Realtor, or they could be running the same exact Facebook lead ads as Barry Jenkins, but they're not having the same results as Barry Jenkins.
Sure.
So what's the difference?
Sure. So first of all, I would say that the difference is that they're different. And so Facebook ad, it's secondary marketing. Nobody goes to Facebook to buy a house. They go to Facebook to relax, and they see a house that you ran an ad on. And so if you call them, and this is true of Ylopo or just Facebook in general, and say, do you have any questions? They're not going to know enough to say yes. We've all been the kid in the room where the teacher asks if you have any questions, and you don't know enough to ask any. Right. They're also not going to be advanced enough, and I'm generalizing, of course, in their search to where when you say, what kind of house do you want, that they are probably going to know. And so understanding where the lead is at in their personal journey is everything. It's everything. It's everything. It peppers your script, your emails, your texts, everything. So what we do is with Ylopo and Facebook and Google Leads in general, we start with saying, hey, out of the homes that you saw, what did you like and what did you not like? The response to that question is their wish list. So instead of saying, how many bedrooms do you want? They're telling me that they want a big yard and they want an open kitchen. but they're not necessarily, they don't realize it. It's Socrates, the Socratic method, teaching through asking questions.
Yep.
But with Zillow, a realtor on the other hand, they know that they want to buy a house in Salem Lakes, in what high school, and how many bedrooms and how many square footage. So that person is farther along in the process.
Yep.
So first of all, that's everything for us. From there, I've written 7 months of emails that go out. My emails are like text messages because I don't, if the email is like 3 paragraphs, don't ever send me a 3-paragraph email because I'm not going to read it. It's too many words.
Yeah.
So my emails are like text messages, and we text, we auto text, we auto drop voicemails. I have 2 ISAs. We do not let any lead go without at least 15 touches. And they're not annoying touches, by the way. We're not constantly saying, do you want to see the house? We actually are teaching every touch. We give them content.
There you go.
Guides, videos for me on cool financing that Virginia has for if you haven't owned it 3 years, market reports, all kinds of stuff. So
you're adding value instead of selling someone, and it works. Oh my God!
Right,
folks. He just dropped a bunch, probably one of the best pieces of advice that we've had on the show recently. And when you break this down, the key to any of these lead sources is simply conversation. Yep. And it's conversation, appropriate conversation. I mean, I like comparing conversion to dating. Right?
Yes.
It's the same thing to me. It really is.
It is. It totally is.
And since I've been married for 5 years, I don't date, so it's like, hey, why not? Let's talk about dating, right? So, yeah, but you're exactly right. You know what your client, you know how to talk to a Facebook lead ad the same way you know how to talk to, in the dating world, a girl from Wisconsin versus a Southern Belle.
Right.
Right? It's two totally different conversations you would have, but you have to talk more appropriately. And then also what he said is the key is in the follow-up. The key is staying on touch and adapting those conversations, because really, when you know how to converse and communicate effectively, that's half the battle, because that allows you to create the engagement to have those conversations. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I use that same analogy all the time.
People, I don't know why, if you see a lot of our stuff, I'm quit chasing leads, start nurturing relationships, start having conversations. And that's why we're so big on that stuff. That was really, really good advice. Let's go to the sphere of influence type of stuff. I love sphere of influence. It's all I do. It's all I talk about. I'm not a big portal purchase internet lead person. But Barry recognizes that 1/3 of his business comes from his own sphere of influence. Folks, 100% of the people know someone who's moving this year. It's just a matter if they're going to introduce your name to them or not.
Right.
And by staying in touch, you hit on a couple points. I want to hear what you guys are doing on the touches here, because these are extremely important. And people confuse marketing to sphere of influence, I believe. They try to lump it the same way as the marketing to Zillow. So I'll give you an example. Someone asked me a question the other day about what type of retargeting ad I would send to my sphere of influence. And I'm like, dude, you don't retarget your sphere of influence. You don't have your sphere of influence opt in to a lead portal. Like, you don't send your what's your home worth ad to your sphere of influence Facebook list as part of your audience. It's a branding play.
Right.
It's branding, it's marketing, it's how your story relates to them. It's like, hey, don't forget about me, I'm over here. So it's I'm curious to see what you guys are doing, because is it more personable in nature? It's just sort of like, it's love touch. We steal Hallmark greeting card campaigns, the concept of it, and that's our sphere of influence marketing strategy. It's that simple. Right.
Well, and I love getting cards, so it still works because it's not many people do it, right? So when it comes to, first of all, the referral relationship starts the moment that the transaction's ratified.
Correct.
My agents fill out a link and it auto tasks a bunch of stuff on our back end. One of the things that occurs is an email with a link to a Woofu form goes to the buyer or the seller. And the name of the email says getting to know you. And it asks them like 7 or 8 questions. Where do you want to travel one day? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite coffee? Store and order.
This is after closing?
No, this is this is the moment the contract's ratified. 2 days later, they get an email. So this is like the day that the buyer and the seller signed everything.
Got it. Okay.
Later, they get a survey. And the idea behind it is we need to know about them. And we need to know what makes them tick, what their favorite sports teams are, so that then our pop buys or our cards, maybe we include a little bit of that. Maybe we bring a latte, a caramel latte from Starbucks to the home inspection because that's what they want. And so instead of just assuming I know what you like, we ask you, right? Simple concept. And then the physical cards.
Excuse me. Sorry, sneezing.
The physical cards and the gifts are going to include something from what they told us about themselves.
Yep.
We send, if they want to travel to Italy one day, we send them a book on Italy. It says, now that you've conquered your goal of buying or selling, here's a book on where you'd like to go one day, right? Yep. And we do retargeting from a branding perspective. So they'll see an ad that says, we would love to help your friends and family the way that we helped you. Yep. Very specific.
Are you using page post engagement for those objectives on Facebook, or are you using the branding awareness objective for that?
Believe it or not, because I'm lazy, I'm using AdWorks. You can upload an email database, and then they filter it out to Google Ads and Facebook. And you know, the ads work because there's no call to action there. It's just
doesn't need to be. Yeah. See, what people keep going. I got something to add when you're done with this.
Home eval emails. So we always are updating them about what their home value is currently, because that's interesting to everybody. Yep. I don't care who you are. And then we drop off gifts. And the cheesier the gift, the better. Yeah. So pumpkins, flowers. It always has a stupid saying like, I want to carve out time with you, or, you know, I want to spring into a meeting one day. And the reason why we do that is we just want to be relevant. We do a car wash event where we're bringing them all in, and we pay a college kid to wash their cars because, you know, that I would like that. I would go to that. You know, sure.
So important. Folks, you just have to listen to people. Again, let's go back to the dating analogy. Until you listen, like if I didn't listen to my wife, we probably would be married.
That's right.
Right? So it's like, and the most important thing you could do in sales is listen. Otherwise, how are you going to know what questions to ask next? So you're focusing on the relationship, and these are the numbers, folks. These don't lie. Each and every year, 60+% of business is generated from the people you know in the form of referrals and repeat clients. Those stats break down into two forms. One goes 34 to 38% each and every year is direct referral-based business. 18 to 23% is repeat business. It's interesting, though, at the same time, 80% of first-time buyers or 80% of buyers never hear from their realtor after 6 months into the transaction. And if the average person is going to buy and sell 3 to 5 houses over the course of their lifetime, where are you not losing business by not staying in touch with them?
Seriously.
Like, it's insane, and it's the long game. Right? It's nice because when you get these calls, like, what's your ROI marketing your network?
Oh, it's through the roof. It's through the roof.
You're not spending Zillow $3,000 a month just to stay in front of them. It's insane the ROI on it. You're absolutely right.
I think the reason why people don't do it, honestly, is because you can't control it. Like, I can give Zillow or realtor money and expect X amount of leads, and so it makes me feel good because I can control it.
Correct.
I can't control my sphere, and so we don't play the long game.
Correct.
We play the short game. And what I'm saying is play both.
Absolutely.
Become relevant to people with lead gen, and then they'll never forget you afterwards.
It's almost like, and I see this too, and you see it in the Facebook groups, people want to check a box.
Yes.
Just to say, oh, yeah, I got 100 leads. All right, what closed, dude? I don't care about the number of leads somebody gets. I care about what's in your bank account.
Right. Or like my cost per lead, right?
Yeah, my cost per lead. Who cares? Like, it does. It's all irrelevant, but it does. And psychologically, me too. Like, even, I'll tell you, I want to get more leads. I just feel something inside of me wants to get more leads. I don't know what it is, but something inside of me just tells me, get more leads. Right. But realistically, it's like, if I have 100 leads and I'm following up with all 100 of them, how much time is that taken out of my on my network? It's absolutely astonishing. All right, let's go to the last point. We'll wrap this thing up. Niche clients, which I love. Niche clients, you mentioned it briefly, and tell me if I understood it correctly, but rehabbers, long-term buyers, In the REO business, it was the REO buyers, the investors at that time, right? And using these type of niche clients as an excuse to market your business to go find them stuff. Is that?
Absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, it's basically whatever the niche client's need is, I meet it because it's going to be regular. It's always there.
Correct.
It's always funneling my business. And for me, because I've got a bunch of agents, I'm able to go procure niche clients and then assign them to my agent so that my agent's doing the day-to-day. My agent's calling them and texting and doing the grunt work. And then at a high level, like my builder just texted me on the way into this appointment, wants to meet me for lunch. Okay, let's go have lunch. Like,
Yep.
he's not a big builder yet, but he's doing, maybe 15 homes a year that are double the average sales price on our market, like all day long.
Big for most agents, considering the average size are 6 per year. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the numbers, and it just makes a lot of sense. And again, those are relationship based,
Yes.
right? Are you running Facebook ads to your niche clients?
No.
No, you're inviting them to the car wash, though. You're inviting them to the client parties, right?
Well, and some of these niche clients, I did right for this one client who's a builder. I did right by somebody. I took it on the chin in a transaction because I felt bad for them, and I did the right thing. And apparently, I didn't know it, but this guy knows a builder, told him the story. That's why he called me, because I did the right thing. Nobody was looking. Integrity, right? Like, running my business the right way. The builder heard about me. We connected. We have similar, ethics, and that's how that relationship forms. So it's just, going at it, being relevant to the people, and making it happen.
The biggest relationships I've created, and even some of the biggest transactions that I've done in my career, are always from the little things I've done that most people go by unnoticed.
Boom.
And that's why you have to have like all of this stuff without a system in place. Like, and you mentioned some key points just on the client taken. Like, if they like Starbucks coffee, don't get them Dunkin' Donuts. Right. And make sure that that's in the cart ready for them at the time of first showing. Like, this is just common sense type stuff, like you would if you're trying to date somebody. Super, super, super interesting. And I mean, it's when you think about it, it's just like a humanization, personalization process. Right. Ultimately, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. That's all this is, folks. This isn't rocket science. But you have to get in the habit of these systems in place. Like,
systems, like, I don't really do all this anymore. It's just decisions I made 6 months ago, or a video I recorded, or an email that I wrote. And then all this great technology, I'm still being me, but I'm not doing anything, right? I think we'll have like 1,500 leads this month. We just had a big month in lead gen, and stuff I wrote a year ago, videos I recorded in BombBomb 2 years ago with when I had hair, still going out. You know what I mean? I'll probably have to refresh them soon, or grow my hair back. One of the two.
You're not going to keep like one of those realtor glamour shop photos, like it's from like the 90s, and then they show up, and you're like, am I really meeting the right person here?
Yeah, I'm married. I don't care what I look like anymore. As long as my wife likes it, I'm good.
Well, this has been a really, really awesome show. I think you gave our listeners quite a bit to munch on. And Barry, do you have anything else you'd like to add that you think any listeners may want to hear?
Yeah, I would just tell you that, in life, you can't control, to use a baseball analogy, you can't control the pitch that you're receiving if you're at bat, but you can control how hard you swing the bat. Yep. And I didn't realize that until I lost everything. Now, every opportunity I get, I swing as hard as I can because I don't know if I'm getting another pitch. So I just want to encourage your listeners, what you're teaching, the podcast and the whole, reaching your sphere, that's the future. That's authentic. It's real. Hit it hard. Give it everything you have. And I just appreciate being on the show, man. It was a real honor.
Yeah, thank you very much. If you folks are listening to the show, maybe you need a Virginia Beach realtor and you want to send him some referrals, go ahead and plug your brokerage site inside of here for sharing your info. And you guys now have a Virginia Beach resource.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Go ahead to give him your site.
VirginiaBeachRealtySearch.com.
All right, and this is Barry Jenkins. Folks, again, thank you for listening to another episode of our podcast. We'll be back next week without another, but you guys know where to find me. It's very, very, very easy. realestatemarketingdude.com. You can't forget it. And more importantly, go to my site, sign up for my training. We give away our stuff for free. We're not gurus. I don't sell you information. I don't want your money. I want to help you. I want your success. Sign up for a course on the main bit of our website. Jump into the attract and retain formula and take all the training. It's free. Who else gives someone $2,000 of training material absolutely free? I do, but it's up to you to go ahead and take it because I'm not going to build this in your business for you, but I will share with what works. So visit us on our site. Appreciate it very much for listening. And Barry, appreciate your time. And we will be in touch. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.